As it becomes more and more apparent that Donald Trump has got a huge amount of momentum in his run for presidency in 2020, all the left has now is to silence us. Why? Because our ideas are better than their ideas. I'm Greg D, coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. This is Americana X Newswatch. Welcome back to the show. If you've been here before, you know what to do. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also share this out to your friends so we can continue to promote Christian conservative values and encourage people to fight this culture war for a greater America. This is a news commentary show to give you a common sense perspective in your weekly news consumption, right? This show is for conservatives that care about what's going on behind the sensationalized headlines. What do we do here? We watch the news. We give you a Christian conservative perspective on it to encourage you in your week. Okay, so let's get right into it. This episode, we're talking about how all the left has right now is to silence those that disagree with them. Look at what we've seen all week in this news cycle. We've seen the social media oligopolies, whatever you call them, just losing it, trying to censor, trying to put a cap on things, trying to limit what people see so that they don't see anything negative about Joe Biden and his family. What else do we see? We see literally every major media news company, like 90% of the news, doing their best to protect Joe Biden, hide what might be negative about him, and then amplify any small shred of something positive. Meanwhile, trying to make Trump look as bad as possible and reframe everything he's doing and everything about his campaign and his rallies as something negative. But it's not working. It's abundantly clear, more and more, that Donald Trump is going to soar to victory in this thing. It really is crazy, the amount of momentum that Donald Trump has. Both, I guess you just say, like a groundswell of enthusiasm in every city that he visits. People chanting things for Donald Trump like, "We love you." Who does that for their politician, right? But also, hey, it's in the general sentiment of online and traditional media. They are reluctantly coming around to the fact that they have to agree that Donald Trump is winning. Even a lot of the liberal media outlets are beginning to agree that Donald Trump is winning. Recently, another conservative commentator, Andrew Klavan, said on one of his shows, quote, "They have to try to silence us because when people hear our ideas win," close quote. I thought this was an interesting concept in that it really did speak to the theme of what I'm talking about here today, which is Donald Trump has got a huge amount of enthusiasm as he's going into this election here and as we sort of wrap up here by November 3rd. But, the fact that it's clear that all things liberals have been doing recently, this just points to the fact that everything they've been trying has been wrong. It's just not working for them. They're not winning the hearts and minds of American people with the things they are doing. And I think that's what we've really got to sort of dial in on here, is that liberals are doing a myriad of things right now, and they are scrambling like crazy, literally from the top of their leadership all the way down to their sort of minions, I guess. They're street soldiers that are these rioters and protesters. Use that word in quotes, air quotes, protesters. All of them, the things they are doing just aren't working to win over hearts and minds of the general American populace. From their protesting and rioting to, statue toppling, all these different stunts they're doing, to their politicians at the very top of their party, abusing their powers or attempting to abuse their powers or threatening to abuse their powers to shut everything down. Look what they're doing right now. Their attempts to use the power they have, all their governors around our cities and states all over the United States, they're shutting things down in the name of what? COVID, right? We'll shut it all down. But what are they really doing here? They want to stop you from talking to your neighbor. They want to stop you from going to the places where you normally congregate with people. Because what are you going to do once you get there? Share your ideas. And that's what they're really threatened by. You sharing your ideas with people you know. That's why they got to shut down churches. It's why they got to shut down gyms. All of this, once Donald Trump is elected president for his second term, and they've got 4 years, and then he can't be elected again after that, I think a lot of this will settle down and will lift a lot of these restrictions to that people can't just hang out with each other. I think a lot of that will go away. But for the time being, these are the tools that the left is using. They are trying to silence you and I so that we can't share our ideas. In their minds, they think this is a form of progress. And that's the real madness of it. If you watch these people on the news, they really think they're doing some great things here. Like by shutting everything down and going on the news and talking about how they're shutting everything down. They literally think this is a form of progress. It's madness. An example would be, look, we told everybody to stay home, okay? And everybody is staying home, all right? So, look what happened. We told them to stay home and they stayed home, so we're saving lives. We did it. Progress, everybody. Look at all the progress we're creating in culture. But just because you are making people do things does not mean that the things you are making them do equals progress. Sometimes it's just useless, dumb activity on your part, limiting other people's freedoms. Liberals are great at activity for activity's sake, and then calling it progress. In fact, they've gotten so good at just creating activity for so many years, I think literally they can't even tell the difference between what is like busy work and nonsense and actually getting something done. And I think that's one of the conundrums that they face. We're looking at, the last 30 years or 40 years of their politicking. To a large extent, I think this boils down to the fact that they aren't doing anything effective, but they don't even really know what to do about it. They're just bitter because they haven't been able to identify winning issues with voters when Trump has. That's an interesting thing. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, but I think that this is something worth bringing up. Donald Trump in 2015, when he started running for president, was able to capture and identify and effectively articulate, sometimes even in just sound bites, the biggest issues that we as America faced in this era. In fact, Donald Trump was able to identify all the biggest issues that even all the other Republican candidates missed. And because he identified accurately the big sweeping problems of our time, it was his positions on these issues that carried him to victory. And that's where the Democrats have always gotten this wrong. The liberals did their best and have been doing their best to convince the world that Donald Trump is this big extremist. Look how extreme and awful and terrible he is. But that's not what happened. He just properly identified the issues, and his stance on those issues won. He's not some crazy maniac, whatever they're calling him, a Nazi, this, that, or the other, racist. It's not about all that. It's that he identified the issues and he presented a solution to the biggest issues facing our country right now. So The liberals were and still are convinced that they have identified the biggest problems facing our culture. And that's what they've been trying to sell us. If you look at what they've been doing, especially the last year, but maybe for the last 3-4 years, in America, they have been doing their best on all fronts to sell us a narrative of inequality. They want that to be the biggest problem that America faces. America's this unequal place and there's so much imbalance of power, and that's the biggest thing we got to fix. It's this. And what does it due to? Well, we on the left are going to tell you that it's due to all the things that we've been selling you for the last 30 or 40 years. Racial tensions, racism, racial bigotry, systemic power, keeping the little guy down, and all of this spins around the concept of inequality. And that's what they've got to sell you. And they've got to get you to believe that's where the real problem is. But inequality is always going to exist in our culture. Even after we install something like socialism, your neighbor might have a couple of things that you don't have. It's just like, even if you were able to put socialism in place, you're not going to have complete equality between people. There's going to be envy that's going to come in and destroy the thing. So in their efforts to prove that they were always right, they have created, this is what I want you to tune in on. The liberals have created the racial animus and the chaos that comes from organized groups promoting anarchy that they so badly need in order to convince the rest of the country that their solutions to these problems are what is really needed today. So what I'm saying here is they created the nasty, destructive culture that they've been pretending to fight against so that they have an enemy to fight against. It's circular. It's them creating their own thing to fight against. And what are they going to use? What's going to be their tool to fight against this big monster? This looming systemic threat? Political correctness is their big superpower. And all of the junk that loads in behind political correctness. So they'll use all of our major institutions that they now control, by the way, and they will use their tools of political correctness to try to cram down through all these major institutions their agenda and their reality for to a larger extent. They're going to try to cram down the way that they see reality, the way that they are selling you their idea of the world. What was it that Dave Rubin said recently? He called it reality war. They want you to believe in their reality. And they are just going to keep pushing and pushing and then say, look, here's the reality we're selling you. Everything's terrible. Everything's unequal to this really horrible extent. And we've got the solution through political correctness. We're going to equal everything out. We're going to identify the inequalities, and then we're going to bring equity through Marxism. It really is madness. But because their ideas are not working, in a way, all the things they've been doing here is just further proven that Trump was right in his original assessment of where the real problems were and how we need to solve them 4 years ago. It's their imbalanced psychology that's driving them to come up with all this extra nonsense, try to push their reality that's actually proving that Donald Trump is on the right side of all the major issues. And this is what we can attribute the enthusiasm gap to. This is what we can contribute the people in Donald Trump's crowds chanting, "We love you." This goes beyond politics. This gets into the heart of really helping people solve real problems, describing reality in a way that is closer to actual reality. If we want to talk about a reality war, Donald Trump is presenting a reality that is closer to the way things actually are, and answers and solutions with issues that resonate more with actual reality, factual reality. And this is why the liberal left feels such a need to silence the rest of us. Because when people hear our ideas, people come over to the conservative side. It's happening more and more and more right now. In fact, I've got friends here in Los Angeles, liberal haven of the universe, one of the top 3 liberal places in the country. And I've got multiple friends that have told me, I won't say their name here on air to protect them, multiple friends that are like in the middle of cool culture. I mean, some of these people, they're in bands, they're in the entertainment industry, they are trying to make it here in media in some way. They are voting for Donald Trump. One of my friends even registered as a Republican, and he's been a liberal his whole life. These are people that live in Hollywood that would have normally been liberal that are now voting for the first time for a Republican candidate. Because when they hear these ideas, when they're exposed to our ideas, the conservative ideas, then they can't refute it. Unless they want to stay intellectually dishonest and just stick their head in the sand like an ostrich, which, hey, there's lots of liberals that are still willing to do that. They'll vote for Joe Biden. It's going to be a minority of people. I'm telling you, we're going to be looking at a landslide here. But at any rate, that's what we got for today's show. Thanks for tuning in to Americana X Newswatch. I've been Greg D, coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you agree with what I'm saying here? Do you agree with the concept that they feel the need to silence us, and that's what's really going on? Tell me if you agree with the way that I'm describing reality. All right, we'll see you next time. Wishing you a great week. And until the next episode of Newswatch, we'll see you soon.